lot of things to talk about. For Oklahoma in this game, lots and lots of positives, I think, but then they made it interesting, like they have pretty much every every game in the 2021 season. It was interesting to say the least. But I think the first half was certainly the best half of football that Oklahoma played all year, bar none. Offense was really played well for the entirety of the game. Defensively, they got caught in some kind of miscommunication situations there in the third quarter, and even some in the fourth quarter. Got beat deep a few times. DJ Graham specifically a couple of times himself. There was one miscommunication, I think, situation with Woody Washington as well. But offensively was consistent. Um, all game, Caleb Williams, 21 out of 27, 242 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Had the one fumble, but got back on it quickly. The running game was the best that it's looked all year. 43 carries for 322 yards. It's hard to lose games when you run for over 300 yards. Hard to lose games when you run for over 200. But specifically, if you're able to run for over 300 yards, it's really, really difficult to lose games like that. And Oklahoma dominated the line of scrimmage, at least on the offensive side, pretty much throughout the game. Like I said, 322 yards. Kennedy Brooks, 14 carries, 142 yards, 3 touchdowns. Eric Gray, 8 carries for 82 yards, his best game as a Sooner running the football. And then we even saw Marcus Major sighting, had 10 carries for 54 yards, ran really tough between the tackles, especially late there in the game. So receiving, Jalil Farouk was actually the leading receiver for Oklahoma, 3 catches for 64 yards. Marvin Mims, 2 catches for 57 yards. Had that 55-yard touchdown pass, or touchdown reception, I should say. Mario Williams had 2 catches for 33 yards. Could have been a lot more. Had that face mask penalty against the Oregon defender, where it ripped his helmet off. Could have scored a touchdown on that play. Kind of give an asterisk by that, by those stats as well. Then Eric Gray had a touchdown reception, 5 catches for 25 yards. And then obviously just a great moment for Oklahoma and Bob Stoops and Drake catching that touchdown pass early in the game. So with his 1 catch for that 6-yard touchdown pass reception. So really good performance overall, considering what was going on within the program over the last month. Bob Stoops taking over, and really just a memorable night for him, for his family, for the Oklahoma program. Really, just kind of in a transition period. So having a guy like Bob Stoops, I think it's gonna create big, huge dividends for this team. Not only next year, but the years following, and on how well he was able to bridge that gap, not necessarily just with this game, but his ability to keep some of the recruits in house, along with Venables coming in and kind of securing and bringing even some of those that left coming back. And then just what he was able to do, keeping the wheels on the bus, and even getting to a position where Oklahoma did as well as they did in the early period from a recruiting perspective from 2022, and then obviously playing well in this game. So a lot of off-season questions, so we can kind of get to that. Obviously, um, you've got a few things. If you're obviously the lull of the going from the off-season begins now, but you've got when you look at Oklahoma, they've got a couple of on-field defensive assistants to hire, from a defensive back perspective, a cornerbacks coach and a defensive line coach, and we'll get into that on some of the guys that I think that will that have a good chance there. Two really big hires, specifically as we looked at how the secondary played, not only through the year but tonight. I think that's going to be both of those hires are going to be very crucial for Oklahoma. And then you kind of get into some of the recruiting in the late signing period, and then that takes obviously Oklahoma into the spring practice and the spring game, in the March April timeframe. So